All right, we begin in Nigeria, where President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the Petroleum Industry Act into law, working from home in 5 days quarantine as required by a Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 after returning from London on Friday, August the 13th. The president assented the bill Monday, August 16th, in his determination to fulfill his constitutional duty. A ceremonial part of the new legislation will be done on Wednesday after the days of mandatory isolation would have been fulfilled. The Petroleum Industry Act provides legal, governance, regulatory, and fiscal framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the development of host communities, and related matters. The Senate had passed the bill on July the 15th, while the House of Representatives did the same on July the 16th, thus ending a long wait since the early 2000s and notching another high for the Buhari administration. Joining us to discuss, we have Mr. Adewale Ajayi, partner and head, Tax, Energy, Natural Resources, KPMG, and Arise Business Analyst, Bode Ososami, both joining us live to discuss this. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Mr. Ajayi, let me start with you. So the president has signed what is now the Petroleum Industry Act into law. We had you on the show not long ago. KPMG released a report highlighting Nigeria's dwindling oil and gas investments from foreign investors. Can this Petroleum Industry Act turn this around?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think it's not been expected. The answer to your question is yes. When you look at what has happened prior to now, between 2015 and 2019, only 4% of the investment made in Africa was only made in the Nigerian oil and gas industry. And again, based on the report from the Bureau of Statistics, less than 1% of the 10 billion investment that was made in 2020 was made in the oil and gas industry. So I think what the PIB 2021 or the Petroleum Industry Act now, as we call it, will do is to attract investment. Now, of course, there's other issues that we need to discuss, but I think what the government has done is to try as much as possible to balance the need for immediate revenue and, of course, and the need to attract investment. So I am optimistic, right, that based on what we've done, we should be able to attract the desired investment into the sector.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Bode, let me come to you. You've been watching the oil industry reform process in Nigeria for a while. What were the issues this bill was trying to answer?
Well, it's a bill that has been in the making for a very long time, and I've been involved even at some stage in the development of the bill. The status quo, which is what we have now, focused on maximizing income for government at the wellhead. That's the upstream sector. This new bill aims to maximize value for Nigeria, looking at the entire value chain. It certainly needs to work harder to be competitive. And what you are trying to do is to tick all the legacy issues that have hurt the development of the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. But not just that, you need to also look forward in terms of legislation that recognizes the fast-changing and different context of today. As we speak, ICE Brent is down 3.34%, $68.23. Just to give you a picture of how volatile and unpredictable the oil prices and, of course, the energy sector has been. And we know that the mood now is a mood of transitioning from the upstream and fossil fuels. So all these, I think, further make the issues much more complicated. Multinationals need attractive fiscal terms to be able to make more investments. Communities also want safer environments and better development impact. So you need a comprehensive upgrade of the rules to release the potential that has tied down Nigeria's oil assets and in an outdated governance and fiscal structure. Is this that comprehensive upgrade? Mind you, this is just a bill. We're talking about oil reform. Oil reform has so many issues to it, processes, technology, legislation, so many things. So we've spent 20 years on a bill, and I just wonder how long we will spend on the other aspects of the reform.
Thank you, Bode. Adewale, let me come back to you. Your report touched on the Frontier Exploration Fund. You found it commendable, but also sounded a note of caution. Can you expand on that for us, please?
Yes, I can. I think let me start, by talking about Nigerians' ambition, right? We've always wanted to be able to grow our reserves to 40 billion barrels. We're currently at about 36 billion barrels. We've also said that we need to increase production to about 4 million barrels of oil per day. We're doing close to about 2 million barrels of oil per day. And so the question is, how do we grow the reserve? Especially when you talk about the need for energy transition, everybody is talking about energy transition. The oil in the ground is of no use to us. So we need to grow our reserves. So how do you grow our reserves? So you need to be able to go to areas that have not been explored. And that is the intention or the objective of the Frontier Exploration Fund. But the only issue there is this: we need to be able to balance, our need to optimize reserves, right, from existing producing areas, right, rather than spend so much money on areas that have not been shattered. I think that is the area that we need to be able to balance. We need to be able to balance that need. Otherwise, we're going to be, just exerting energy in an area, right, that may not be able to recover the hydrocarbon. And so that is the only issue there. But I think it's something that needs to be commended, right, in terms of trying to look, try and look for areas to be able to boost our reserves. And that is the objective of the Frontier Exploration Fund.
Thank you so much, sir. But let me come back to you from a corporate, from a governance perspective. What is going to change as far as this act is concerned, Bode?
Well, Rotus, there are three governance institutions. The upstream sector is to be overseen by the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission. The midstream and downstream sectors will be under the oversight of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. And then you have general oversight powers over the petroleum industry vested in the Minister of Petroleum. So you've got three regulatory structures which are meant to be more focused, more efficient, and distinct from each other. The big question, of course, is how independent and efficient regulators will be in terms of the processes, the technology enablement, and, of course, the speed of decision making, and whether we will see the corruption, which, of course, has always been a big issue when it comes to decisions as regards these regulators. The other issue, of course, is the incorporation of NNPC Limited with Ministry of Finance Incorporated and Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated as shareholders. And, of course, the bill also, apart from this newly incorporated NNPC, which is potentially, some say, a first step to privatization, it also encourages voluntary conversion to incorporated joint ventures subject to the guiding principles and so on. But that, of course, depends on whether the JVs are aligned to that. But that would be a big, big improvement if we do get incorporated JVs in terms of funding. Unfortunately, it's coming at a time when many of the JVs are exiting. So my sense is that if you look at the governance, it is a step forward. There are still some concerns. If you look at the Statoil model, which is seen as the best case, or if you like, a best practice, you would see the separation of the investment management services from the National Oil Company. In this case, NAPIMS, that's the National Petroleum Investment Services, is still within NNPC. So there is really not much difference apart from this incorporation. When NNPC is privatized, the whole process, of course, will require a very comprehensive due diligence. We have to wait and see what that reveals. But I must warn that incorporatization is not a solution for financial misadventures. You are just going to expose what you have in the organization. And to become a Saudi Aramco is more than just incorporating. You want to improve the efficiency of your business model, innovation, R&D. So many things have to be done. But clearly, this, just like Ajayi said, is an excellent first step. But we have to build on what we have here, move very, very quickly, and improve on this bill.
Thank you, Bode. Adewale, let me come back to you. Just last week, we had Shell making the announcement of $110 million payments to the Ogoni people for an oil spill. They've been fighting back and forth for so long. Does the Petroleum Industry Act, in your view, go far enough in holding oil and gas companies accountable for environmental degradation?
Yeah, I think one good thing about the Petroleum Industry Act is the focus on environmental degradation and how do we try as much as possible to protect the environment. We may all recall what happened in 2010, with the BP, oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. That spill cost BP about $65 billion. right? And that spill ran for about 87 days. 11 people died in that spill. Now, the question is, if a company were to spend up to $65 billion and you don't have a reserve, you don't have a fund, how are you going to survive? So what the Petroleum Industry Act has done is to make it mandatory for oil companies, to have a fund to be able to take care of that spill. So you talked about the 45 billion, naira that was given, that Shell was meant to pay. This judgment was given way back about 11 years ago, right? And there's so many issues, surrounding it. So the good thing about the PIB or the Petroleum Industry Act is that it's making it mandatory for oil companies in Nigeria to have a fund, to take care of environmental remediation because it's part of operations. And you never can tell how big a spill can be. A spill as big as the one that BP had can actually cause a company to go into liquidation. And so what the PIB has done is to ask companies to set up a fund, and they can then use from the fund to take care of environmental remediation as the case may be. And if the company doesn't spend the money, then the commission will take from that to take care of the environment. I mean, we've all seen what has happened to Bode. I mean, a lot of rivers you cannot even drink the water because the water is polluted. The people cannot farm because the land is not arable. And so, good thing about it is that it's made that provision for it. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to implementation. It's all good and nice to have this provision, in the bill. But then what do we do with the implementation? And I think that is where Nigeria, we found ourselves wanting. We need to implement, aggressively the provisions of the bill and ensure that all oil companies set up the environmental fund, to take care of the environment.
Thank you, sir. Bode, okay, actually, it looks like we actually have run out of time. We could have continued talking about this for so long. I want to thank RI's business analyst, Bode Ososami, and Mr. Adewale Ajayi, partner and head, tax, energy, natural resources at KPMG, for taking us through the breaking news. President Buhari signing the Petroleum Industry Act into law. Thank you both, gentlemen, very much for a in-depth conversation here.